Upla Bobby Hookdo Baby Ichi. Welcome. We're going to study chapter 4 of, we're going to read chapter 4 of Humility by Andrew Murray. Dwi wedi estyn y Beibl Cymraeg mwyn I ni ddarllen. I'm going to read in Welsh and in English because sometimes it helps. Well, it definitely helps. Learn of me, for I am meek and lowly of heart. Matthew 11:29. Learn of me, for I am meek and lowly of heart. Whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your servant, even as the Son of Man came to serve. So, dwi eisiau clywed hwnna yn Gymraeg. I need to hear that in English, in Welsh, so that I know exactly what it involves. Because the second one I don't understand. So, beth yw'r ail un? Oh dear. Matthew 20:27. Matthew 20:27. So, Cais Iago Iowan yw'r teitl. 26 yw, ond nid felly y mae I fod yn eich plith chwi yn hytrach. Pwy bynnag sydd am fod yn fawr yn eich plith, rhaid iddo fe fod yn was I chi. Dwi'n gweld. A phwy bynnag sydd am fod yn flaenaf yn eich plith, rhaid iddo fe fod yn geithwas I chi. Fel mab y dyn. Na ddaeth I gael ei wasanaethu, ond I wasanaethu, ac I roi ei einioes yn brydwerth dros lawer. We need to hear that, the whole verse. I'm sure the chapter will explain, but it's nice to have this from the Bible to check that Andrew Murray isn't making it up. So, Matthew. How do I find Matthew in this Oswald Chambers Bible? Let's have a look how it works. Once he starts Matthew, he carries on. But when did he start Matthew? That's the case. Shall I look at the Tudalen Gynnwys? Oh, look. Pride. Purity. Rebirth. Redemption. Regeneration. Don't get distracted, Hill. Come on. Work it out. Right, Matthew. Oh, it's at the beginning. Look, he starts off with Matthew, Psalm 1 and Proverbs in his Bible. It's interesting. So, and then there's he starts off with Genesis. Of course he does. Why wouldn't he? So Matthew's here. Let's have a look. Matthew 20. Yeah, we're on Matthew 12 there. We're working on Matthew 20, 17 to 34, here we go. Matthew 20, and we'll start from 24. And when the 10 heard it, they were greatly displeased with the two brothers. But Jesus called them to himself and said, You know what the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them. You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who are great exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among you, but whoever desires to become great among you, let him be your servant. And whoever desires to be first among you, let him be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. Oh, right, good. So gadewch ni glywed. Let's listen to what Andrew Murray. I'm sure these were sermons. So let's hear. Let's have some light. Okay. We have seen the humility in the life of Christ as he laid upon his heart to us. As he laid open his heart to us. Let us listen to his teaching. There There we shall hear how he speaks of it and how far he expects men, and especially his disciples, to be humble as he was. Let us carefully study the passages which I can scarce do more than quote, to receive the full impression of how often and how earnestly he taught it. It may help us to realize what he asks of us. Look at the commencement of his ministry. Number 1. In the Beatitudes with which the Sermon on the Mount opens, he speaks, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." The very first words of his proclamation of the kingdom of heaven reveal the open gate through which alone we enter. The poor, who have nothing in themselves, to them the kingdom comes. The meek, who seek nothing in themselves, theirs the earth shall be. The blessings of heaven and earth are for the lowly. For the heavenly and the earthly life, humility is the secret of blessing. For the heavenly and the earthly life, humility is the secret of blessing. Right. Ydw i'n cofio hwnna nawr? Ydw i'n mynd I fyw hwnna? Ydw, dwi'n mynd I. Mae'n rhaid I gofio. Brwydro'r balchder. Lladd y balchder. Learn of me, number 2. Learn of me, for I am meek and lowly of heart, and ye shall find rest for your souls. Jesus offers himself as teacher. He tells us what the Spirit both is, which we shall find in him as teacher, and which we can learn and receive from him. Meekness and lowliness is the one thing he offers us. In it we shall find perfect rest of soul. Humility is to be our salvation. Pan dwi wedi bod yn darllen hwn ben fy hunan, dwi wedi bod yn marcio'r geiriau a'r pwyslais. Gobeithio byddai'n gallu anghofio bod y camera ymlaen nawr. Cos mae rhaid fi gael y camera ymlaen I ddarllen pan dwi adre. Dwi fel arfer yn darllen hwn mewn tu allan, mewn llefydd. Caffis enghraifft. The disciples had been, number 3, the disciples had been disputing who would be the greatest in the kingdom and had agreed to ask the master, Luke 9:46, Matthew 18:3. He set a child in their midst and said, whoever shall humble himself as this little child shall be exalted. Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? The question is indeed a far-reaching one. What will be the chief distinction in the heavenly kingdom? The answer, none but Jesus would have given. The chief glory of heaven, the true heavenly mindedness, the chief of the graces is humility. He that is least among you, the same shall be great. Number 4. The sons of Zebedee had asked Jesus to sit on his right and left, the highest place in the kingdom. Jesus said it was not his to give, but the Father's, who would give it to those to whom it was prepared. They must not look or ask for it. Their thought must be of the cup and the baptism of humiliation. And then he added, whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your servant, even as the Son of Man came to serve. Humility, as it is the mark of Christ, the heavenly, will be the one standard of glory in heaven. The lowliest is the nearest to God. The primacy in the church is promised to the humblest. 5. Speaking to the multitude of the disciples, of the Pharisees and their love of the chief seats, Christ said once again, Matthew 33:11, he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. Humiliation is the only ladder to honour in God's kingdom. A ladder to honour. Yeah, on another occasion, in the house of the Pharisee, he spoke the parable of the guest who would be invited to come higher. Luke 14:1-11, and added, for whosoever exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. The demand is inexorable. There is no other way. Self-abasement alone will be exalted. 7. After the parable of the Pharisee and the publican, Christ spake again. Luke 18:14. Everyone that exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. In the temple and presence and worship of God, everything is worthless that is not pervaded by deep, true humility towards God and men. I have a question. When I laugh, am I being proud? When I get excited, am I being proud? In the temple and presence and worship of God, everything is worthless that is not pervaded by deep, true humility towards God and men. I don't laugh out loud and get excited in the temple of God. I do when I'm with certain people. But that's joy. Deep reverential fear of God keeps me from getting too flippant. But I'm very excitable. My personality hopefully doesn't channel pride. After washing the disciples' feet, Jesus said, John 13:14, If I then, the Lord and Master, have washed your feet, ye also ought to wash one another's feet. The authority of command and example, every thought either of obedience or conformity, make humility the first and most essential element of discipleship. Number 9. At the Holy Supper table, the disciples still disputed who should be greatest. Luke 22:26. Jesus said, He that is greatest among you, let him be as the younger, and he that is chief, as he that doth serve. I am among you as he that serveth. The path in which Jesus walked and which he opened up for us, the power and spirit in which he wrought out salvation, and to which he saves us, is ever the humility that makes me the servant of all. How little this is preached. How little it is practiced. How little the lack of it is felt or confessed. I do not say how few attain to it, some recognizable measure of likeness to Jesus in his humility, but how few ever think of making it a distinct object of continual desire or prayer. How little the world has seen it. How little has it been seen, even in the inner circle of the church. Mae'r soffa wedi mynd lawr star. So mae rhaid I fi ofalu am fy nghefn. Whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your servant. Would God that it might be given us to believe that Jesus means this. We all know what the character of a faithful servant or slave implies. Devotion to his master's interests, thoughtful study and care to please him, delight in his prosperity and honour and happiness. There are servants on earth in whom these dispositions have been seen, and to whom the name of servant has never been anything but a glory. To how many of us has it not been a new joy in the Christian life to know that we may yield ourselves as servants, as slaves to God, and to find that his service is our highest liberty, the liberty from sin and self? We need now to learn another lesson, that Jesus calls us to be servants of one another, and that as we accept it heartily, this service too will be a most blessed one, a new and fuller liberty too from sin and self. At first it may appear hard. This is only because of the pride which still counts itself something. If once we learn that to be nothing before God is the glory of the creature, the Spirit of Jesus, the joy of heaven, we shall welcome with our whole heart the discipline we may have in serving even those who try or vex us. When our own heart is set upon this, the true sanctification we shall study each word of Jesus on self-abasement with new zest, and no place will be too low, and no stooping too deep, and no service too mean or too long continued, if we may but share and prove the fellowship with him who spake, I am among you as he that serveth. Brethren, here is the path to the higher life. Down, lower down. This was what Jesus ever said to the disciples, who were thinking of being great in the kingdom, and of sitting on his right hand and his left. Seek not, ask not for exaltation. That is God's work. Look to it that you abase and humble yourselves, and take no place before God or man, but that of servant. That is your work. Let that be your one purpose and prayer. God is faithful. Just as water ever seeks and fills the lowest place, so the moment God finds the creature abased and empty, his glory and power flow in to exalt and to bless. He that humbleth himself, that must be our one care, shall be exalted. That is God's care. By his mighty power and in his great love, he will do it. Men sometimes speak as if humility and meekness would rob us of what is noble and bold and manlike. Oh, that all would believe that this is the nobility of the kingdom of heaven, that this is the royal spirit, that the King of heaven displayed, that this is godlike, to humble oneself, to become the servant of all. This is the path of the gladness and the glory of Christ's presence ever in us, his power ever resting on us. Jesus, the meek and lowly one, calls us to learn of him the path to God. Let us study the words we have been reading until our heart is filled with the thought, my one need is humility, and let us believe that what he shows, he gives. What he is, he imparts. As the meek and lowly one, he will come in and dwell in the longing heart. Okay, dwi'n edrych ar y sgrin fyna nawr. Tu ôl I fi, dwi'n gweld Bob's Narcissus fyna. Hello, Bob's Narcissus. Wel, dwi'n ddiolchgar bod fi wedi cael y cyfle i ddarllen hwnna. Mae'n lot o ddarlleniadau yna, does? Does gynna i ddim yn meddwl i ymdreiddio yn fanwl. Ond dwi yn credu bod yr ysbryd glân yn trin y galon ac yn trin yr hen natur pechadurus. Dwi'n syrthio mor hawdd yn ffair y byd. Hyd yn oed yn ffair y byd neithiwr roeddwn ni'n feirniadol o bobl. A lle'n bod yn feirniadol o bobl? Dyliwn ni ddim fod yn feirniadol o bobl. Ni'n jyst derbyn e. A gweddio, dyna beth sy'n eisiau fi wneud, ond dydw i ddim. A gweddio bod Duw yn dangos I hun y cyntraw's newid nhw. A gweddi yw'r allwedd. Nid canu. Ond falle allai wneud y ddau. Dwi'n siŵr allai wneud y ddau. Mae'n amser cinio. Dwi'n mynd I bigo Mrs P lan ar ôl cinio o'r bws. Let's have a final reading. Psalm 81. Where is it? Sing aloud to God, our strength. Make a joyful shout to the God of Jacob. Raise a song and strike the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the lute. Blow the trumpet at the time of the new moon, at the full moon on our solemn feast day. For this is a statute for Israel, a law of the God of Jacob. This he established in Joseph as a testimony when he went throughout the land of Egypt, where I heard a language I did not understand. Proverbs 20:22-23. Do not say, I will recompense evil. Wait for the Lord, and he will save you. Diverse weights are an abomination to the Lord, and dishonest scales are not good. Acts 15:22-41. Then it pleased the apostles and elders with the whole church to send chosen men of their own company to Antioch with Paul and Barnabas, namely Judas, who was also named Barsabbas, and Silas, leading men among the brethren. They wrote this letter by them, the apostles, the elders, and the brethren. To the brethren who are of the Gentiles in Antioch, Syria, and Cilicia, greetings, since we have heard that some who went out from us have troubled you with words, unsettling your souls, saying, you must be circumcised and keep the law, to whom we gave no such commandment. It seemed good to us, being assembled with one accord, to send chosen men to you with our beloved Barnabas and Paul, men who have risked their lives for the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. We have therefore sent Judas and Silas, who will also report the same things by word of mouth. For it seemed good to the Holy Spirit and to us to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessary things, that you abstain from things offered to idols, from blood, from things strangled, and from sexual immorality. If you keep yourselves from these, you will do well. Farewell. So, when they were sent off, they came to Antioch, and when they had gathered the multitude together, they delivered the letter. When they had read it, they rejoiced over its encouragement. Now Judas and Silas, themselves being prophets also, exhorted and strengthened the brethren with many words. And after they had stayed there for a time, they were sent back with greetings from the brethren to the apostles. However, it seemed good to Silas to remain there. Paul and Barnabas also remained in Antioch, teaching and preaching the word of the Lord with many others also. Then after some days Paul said to Barnabas, "Let us now go back and visit our brethren in every city where we have preached the word of the Lord, and see how they are doing." Now Barnabas was determined to take with them John, called Mark. But Paul insisted that they should not take with them the one who had departed from them in Pamphylia, and had not gone with them to the work. Then the contention became so sharp that they parted from one another. And so Barnabas took Mark and sailed to Cyprus. But Paul chose Silas and departed, being commended by the brethren to the grace of God. And he went through Syria and Cilicia, strengthening the churches. Right, so in contrast to what the humility required, we have here life with uncommon spirit, as Oswald Chambers puts it. He says, a life with presence, that is, an uncommon spirit, redeems any situation from the commonplace. It may be cleaning boots or doing housework, any ordinary thing at all. But as soon as it is touched by a man or woman with presence, it ceases to be commonplace. The rarest asset to a godly life is to be practically conscientious in every situation. But the Lord was with Joseph, and he gave him favour in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Joseph's adaptability was superb. Adaptability is not tact. Tact is frequently nothing but the moral counterpart of hypocrisy. Adaptability is the power to make a suitable environment for oneself out of any set of circumstances. Most of us are all right if we can live in our own particular setting, with our own crowd. But when we get pitchforked somewhere else, either we cannot adapt ourselves, or we adapt ourselves too easily and lose God. Joseph did not lose God. God was with Joseph in Egypt, and he had been in Canaan. Canaan. He was with him in the prison, and as he was in the house of his master. Well, no discussion of disagreement, but again reflecting humility in sight of God, letting God do his work in whatever our situations are. Diolch. Diolch. Hwyl fawr. Diolch I chi. Gobeithio bod rhywun wedi cael bydd o hwn. Dwi wedi. Hopefully, if you've listened to me rambling on, you've had a good time. Diolch.